Hello viewers and welcome to another match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today, thanks to the Russian meta, we have our first live-action Necrons match to debut on this channel. On the left, playing as Nahumekh, we see Anton Elizarov, and on the right, piloting instead Captain Cato Sicarius, we have Pavel Ilichev. Initiative begins in the possession of our Necron, and planet number 1 is Elowith, which affords its victor the opportunity to search the top 3 cards of their deck for any single addition to their hand they would like. Our Necron has chosen the Orcs faction on his enslavement dial, and it looks like Nahumek's first deploy action is to throw out a copy of Snakebite Thug to planet number 1. So, for the cost of 2, it's got a command icon, it's a 3/4 which deals itself a point of damage upon successful resolution of an attack, and it brings Nahumek's total number of non-Necron allied factions among units he controls to 1. So whichever planet Nahumekh is sitting at as a reaction to the beginning of the combat phase, Nahumekh can pick a target enemy army unit and give it minus X HP for the remainder of that phase, where X is equal to the number of non-Necron factions. So, at planet number 4, Cato has laid down a copy of the 1-cost 10th Company Scout. It's got a command icon to attack, but it's got just 1 hit point, so if Nahumekh shows up at that planet, minus 1 HP means that the 10th Company Scout dies immediately, with no opportunity to shield or use any Space Marine trick like Indomitable. At planet number 2, Nahumekh drops a signature army unit, that's the Destroyer Cultist. It's a 3-cost, 1 command icon, 1/4 that gets plus X to its attack value at all times, where X is equal to the number of non-Necron factions you control, so currently for the cost of 3, it's no more than a measly 2/4, barely passing that ever-popular vanilla test. Nahumekh has clearly passed. Both players are currently deciding where exactly they want to send their respective warlords at the beginning of the command phase. We've got a Void Pirate at planet number 5 for a +1 card bonus for Cato, and at planet number 2, we've now got a copy of the 2-cost, 2-command icon Iron Guard Recruits. So it's looking like Nahumekh is potentially going to be economically slaughtered, but where exactly are our players going to be sending their warlords? At planet number 1, we've got a copy of Honored Librarian, which is just barely safe from Nahumek's minus HP ability. It's a 3-cost, 1 command icon 4/2. It cannot be outright attacked if you control a unit not named Honored Librarian at that same planet, but with a paltry 2 hit points, it's rather susceptible to those HP reduction outright, auto-kill effects. But Cato shows up at planet number 1, Nahumekh shows up at planet number 5 to deny that 2 cards and 1 resource of Cato over Ossus 4. At the beginning of combat, that's going to be a dead Void Pirate, and it looks like that Honored Librarian is going to swing for a total of 4. It could potentially destroy that Snakebite Thug in 1 hit, but we've got a shield card that's going to be Reanimation Protocols, meaning that is only going to be 3 points of damage, but that is Crushing Blow, and that Snakebite Thug is dead, so Cato's going to end up surviving that planet unscathed without having to use shields or Indomitable to prevent the Snakebite Thug's swing of 3. So, for the command phase, just to catch up here, at planet number 1, that was 2 cards for Cato. Planet number 2 was a card and a resource for Cato. Planet number 4 is going to be a couple of resources for the resource-generating Captain Cato Sicarius, and planet number 5 is going to be a card and a resource for Nahumekh. Looks like that's a copy of Drop Pod Assault, played by our Space Marine player, and it looks like he's attempting to contest Nahumek's presence at planet number 5. So planet number 1 was the chance for Cato to look at the top 3 cards of his deck, find one of those, add it to his hand. That may well have been that copy of Drop Pod Assault that we're seeing played now. The remaining 2 cards were placed at the bottom of Cato's deck, and that was definitely not the ideal Space Marine unit to get into play. Nahumekh, without initiative, takes a swing. Tactical Squad Cardenas takes 2 points of damage. It's a 2-cost, 1 command icon, 1/3, so it only is going to be able to deal a single point of damage to Nahumekh, but it looks like that is going to be back-to-back, consecutive drop pod assaults, and that is much more reasonable. That is going to be a Blood Angels Veterans 3-cost 3/3 with a command icon. It takes a swing of 3 at Nahumekh. We see a shield card discarded. That is going to be a copy of Royal Phylactery discarded as a shield. So 3 minus 2 is, of course, only 1, and that's going to be 2 points of damage to Nahumekh already. Note that Iridial is nowhere to be seen. Karnath was the planet currently under contest, and it looks like that was going to be Ossus 4 triggered, so that's going to be +1 resource for Cato, -1 resource for our Necron. We go through an HQ phase. That's going to be 2 cards and 4 resources for each player. Initiative changes over to Cato at the moment. That's going to be a blue technology icon sitting in Cato's victory display. The new planet number 1 is going to be Taurus, which affords its victor, provided they've got a lower unit count than their opponent, with their choice of either 3 cards or 3 resources. And our new planet number 5 is going to be the 1 green strongpoint icon planet that is Barless. It is only going to be, well, it's going to be the 2-card bonus random card discard planet. So what exactly are we going to be seeing here? It looks like it's going to be Cato's opportunity to take a deploy action, and I guess Cato is really well positioned to win a whole hell of a lot of resources. Cato drops, or sorry, I guess I meant command struggles, not resources. Cato puts into play a copy of Rogue Trader positioned at planet number 4 alongside that Tactical Squad Cardenas, alongside that Blood Angels Veterans. That's going to be another command icon. It's going to be a +1 resource bonus, provided he wins a command struggle at that planet. That's going to be rather nasty and unlikely for Nahumekh to arrive at. At planet number 1, we've got another copy of Blood Angels Veterans. That would be a red and a green icon added to the victory display of our Space Marine, provided he does manage to capture that planet. It isn't exactly feeding toward a victory condition for him, but I guess if he were to pick up planet 1, 2, and 4, that would be victory through those red material type icons. So maybe, I guess we'll have to see what happens, whether or not the victory at Elowith ended up being irrelevant apart from winning, the cards and its powerful battle ability. In Nahumek's HQ, do note that that's a copy of Sawtech Complex. The enslavement dial is currently set to Tau. Sawtech Complex, the first time you deploy a non-Necron common army unit each turn, you're given your choice, provided you don't control any other units of that faction. You get your choice of either a card or a resource. And it's a 1-cost limited support, so the earlier you can get it into play, the better. Currently, the number of non-Necron factions among units that Nahumekh controls is no more than a measly 1. So Nahumekh is only going to do a -1 HP reduction himself, and that Destroyer Cultist is only attacking for 2. I believe that's a copy of Promotion on that Blood Angels Veterans at 4, but it's rather difficult to see. I think that was the alternate art version thereof. Looks like at planet number 2, we've now got a copy of Tombblade Squadron. It's going to be a 3-cost, 2-command icon, 0/3. No war gear can be played on that unit, so it's not going to be able to pick up the ever-popular Gauss Flare that's so hot right now. But whenever you happen to play a non-Necron scout trait army unit, you can move it to the planet of your choice and give a target unit -1 HP, which persists only until the end of the phase. Looks like it's a Viorlaw Marksman played at planet number 2. That's a 1-cost, 1-command icon, 1/2 with ranged. Sawtech Complex appears to have gained Nahumekh a resource, so that was essentially free. Playing that Viorlaw Marksman and it being played allowed that Tombblade Squadron to move itself to planet number 3. -1 hit point to that copy of 10th Company Scout means that it is dead outright, and we've now got a copy of the 1-cost attachment Gauss Flare on the Destroyer Cultist, which is fortunate because it wasn't looking like it was going to be swinging very hard, only for 2. So here's where the Necrons get cool. At planet number 1, Nahumekh shows up. Cato has shown up to planet number 3. Nahumekh currently controls 1 non-Necron faction among units he controls, so he's going to be able to give that Blood Angels Veterans at the beginning of the combat phase a -1 HP. Gauss Flare, you exhaust the attached unit to give -2 HP, which persists until the end of the phase. So those two effects together completely circumvent the Blood Angels Veterans reaction, which shaves damage off of incoming sources of damage. And of course, Indomitable is not a thing, shielding is not a thing, so that is going to be those, Gauss weapons just outright disintegrating. I guess just, stripping all the particles away in the Blood Angels Veterans. That ancient Terminator armor it's wearing is just going to be rendered to its particulate matter, I can only imagine. But as we're waiting on that BAV be to be undoubtedly destroyed. At planet number 1, that's going to be a card and a resource won by Nahumekh. Planet number 2, that's going to be a couple of resources won by poor Nahumekh. Planet number 3, we've got a couple of resources won by Cato. I can only imagine he's attempting to kind of deal with that Tombblade Squadron and keep stealing resources away from our Necron player. At planet number 1, that Blood Angels Veterans finally succumbs to Gauss Flare, and it looks like that is going to be another copy of Drop Pod Assault played out by our Space Marine. So he's going to look at the top 6 cards of his deck, see what kind of a Space Marine unit he might find to put into play to beat up poor Nahumekh. And depending on what he draws, that could be a lot of outgoing damage. At planet number 4, that's going to be a resource, 2 resources and a card won by Cato during our command phase. And of course, planet number 5, due to the presence of no units whatsoever at that planet, that card bonus is going to be unactivated by either player. So, looks like at planet number 1, that is going to be a copy of Honored Librarian. It's going to have an opportunity to swing at Nahumekh for 4. And now I hope we've got a copy of Reanimation Protocols or some sort of hefty shield value card, because otherwise Nahumekh could risk being bloodied. Looks like there's no action taking place. That's going to be a swing of 4 played by that used by the Honored Librarian. Drudgery being discarded means that it's only going to be 3 points of damage, and now Nahumekh is going to be faced with a bit of a difficult prospect here. If he attacks for 2 and the Iron Guard recruits are going to be outright killed, that is totally fine, but if those recruits survive, they could attack Nahumekh and potentially bloody him. Is Nahumekh going to retreat? Again, that crap thing about the Honored Librarian is, like, let's say both of our players make it to the end of the combat round. As soon as that Destroyer Cultist readies as an action at a planet where a battle is taking place, which is currently happening, it could give that Honored Librarian minus 2 HP. It would immediately drop to 0 HP, and then it's outright destroyed. Even though it cannot be attacked directly, it's by no means immune to card effects. So just like Tzeentch's Firestorm can obliterate those guys, Gauss Flares have no problem just getting rid of them. So maybe it's all the more reason for the meta to shift toward cards like White Scars Bikers and things like that. Nahumekh took a swing at the Iron Guard recruits. Looks like we see that copy of Fury of Sicarius discarded as a shield, and Nahumekh is not so lucky, so I believe it should be a point of damage on that Iron Guard recruits. Fury of Sicarius, as a signature event, only subtracts 1 point of damage, and Nahumekh, of course, has 2 attack value, but Nahumekh is bloodied. He's going to be flipped over. He's now going to be no more threatening than a mere 1/6 with no ability. So things are looking rather bad, rather bleak, rather grim for our Necron player. Looks like at the end of the combat round, prior to the opportunity to use that Gauss Flare, Cato decides to haul ass away from that planet. The Honored Librarian and Iron Guard recruits retreat, and Nahumek's unit count is currently 4 relative to the Space Marines unit count of 7, and that is going to be, it looked like Taurus resulted in 3 cards being drawn by our Necron players, so activating Taurus is always a delight. Cato took a swing of 2 at his planet. That's going to be 2 points of damage dealt to the Tombblade Squadron. At the end of combat, that Honored Librarian is going to be readying. The Tombblade Squadron decides to retreat. Cato, unfortunately, was not able to deal the killing blow, but the activation of Ossus 4 is going to be +1 resource for Cato, -1 resource for our Necron. We move through an HQ phase for the second time this game. That's going to be 2 cards and 4 resources for each of our players. The initiative token is once again going to be directed toward Nahumekh. And now what exactly is he going to do, if anything, to attempt to come back from the devastation wrought upon him by our formidable, resilient, badass bit of a Space Marine there? So the Ultramarines are kind of given, a claim by all for being, just unrivalable in regard to their combat prowess, and it seems like in both combat and command, our Space Marine is definitely doing pretty damn decently. So for the enslavement dial, looks like once again we've got Tau selected, which is good and bad. Like, it's cool to get more scouts in play, but it's also bad because you're not going to increase your number of non-Necron factions because you've already got a Tau unit. So you're kind of restricted on what you can play and what you can put into play. Drudgery, for instance, which is currently in the Necron player's discard pile for the cost of 2. That's a limited keyword card akin to Sawtech Complex, and you pick, like a 3 or lower cost common non-Necron army unit from your discard pile, and you put it into play at whatever planet you'd like, but it is going to have to match the enslavement dial. And it looks like maybe I spoke too soon, or maybe I was looking at the wrong side of the dial or something like that, or maybe Anton ended up adjusting it, but now quite clearly orcs are selected as the enslaved faction. The enslavement dial is supposed to be set at the beginning of the deploy phase, but Anton, kind enough to send me these videos in the first place, did happen to mention this is, I believe, the first game he had ever played as Necron. So, a couple of different things here. Sicarius has chosen the signature army unit played at planet number 2. That is going to shift the location of the Viorla marksman to planet number 2, and it's going to deal it a point of damage. Also note that Iron Guard recruits in the HQ of Pavel should have a point of damage on it. Hopefully that's not going to end up making any kind of difference as to the outcome of this match. Planet number 1 is going to be Farron, the route a target non-warlord unit planet. Planet number 5 is going to be Yvarn, which basically forces both players to put an army unit from their hand into play at their HQ. Planet number 1, we've got another cool Necron army unit that's going to really come into its own once we break into the Death World cycle and see Illuminor Xeris hit the scene, but that is going to be the 3-cost Reanimating Warriors. They're a 1-command icon 2/2, which is definitely not a great unit for the cost that you're getting, but their ability is, where the appeal lies. Whenever they happen to be destroyed at a planet through taking damage, you can place them at an adjacent planet. So if they're destroyed at planet number 1, they shift over to planet number 2 during the following round's command phase. They count their command icons, and because they're never actually destroyed, you instead remove the damage and move them. If you put an attachment like Gauss Flare on them, or even promotion, each and every, they never lose the attachments. They are superb recipients for Gauss Flare. And all in all, it's just an incredible unit, I think, that's only going to get better and better. But the problem, of course, is that they do cost a considerable bit of possible economy tempo, because they're a 3-cost 1-command icon unit, and for the stats, they're not incredible. At planet number 1, note that Sawtech Complex resulted in a card being drawn by Anton. We've got a copy of Scrap Naba, so it's a 2-cost, 1-command icon, 1/2 orc. It's got the ally trait, which is a weakness if we see Imperial Fist's Siege Force played by our Space Marine player, but provided that they're sitting at a planet with a +2 resource, provided they're sitting at a red material icon possessing planet, they're going to afford their controller a +2 resource bonus. So I would not be shocked to see Cato arrive at planet number 1, because really, what is Nahumekh going to do? Nahumekh is going to have to show up at planet number 1 in order to contest Cato winning that command struggle. Interestingly enough, we've got a copy of Imperial Fist's Devastators being played at planet number 5. They're a 4-cost 4/3 with a couple command icons, and whenever they're played at a blue planet, you can pick a location trait support to be destroyed, and that Sawtech Complex is going to be destroyed. But now we've also got a copy of a 4-cost unit sitting in a planet where it's only generating 1 resource per turn, which sucks. So I suppose it's was it worth it? Was it worth it, Pavel, to put that unit out to a blue planet and just to get 1 resource, as opposed to sending that unit to a planet like Barlas, where it would sit there, Sawtech Complex would not be destroyed, but you're going to be able to gain 2 cards per turn. And if Nahumekh were to show up at planet number 4 as a 1/6 warlord, I don't think he was going to be able to do much against an Imperial Fist's Devastators. But regardless, both of our players are currently deciding where exactly they want to send their warlords for command. Unfortunately, it did not seem like we saw a non-Necron scout played this turn. That would have been a sterling opportunity to move the Tombblade Squadron from the HQ of our Necron player to a planet. It could have killed that rogue trader. It could have finished off that tactical squad Cardenas. And more importantly, perhaps, it could have shown up someplace to win command. It could have even gone to Barlas and won a couple of cards, lest Captain Cato Sicarius show up at that planet. So, Cato's currently just got the 1 blue icon. Cato could show up at planet number 1 and end up winning a red icon, but I guess we're going to have to wait a little while for a victory condition to become clear for either of our players. If Nahumekh picks up planet number 1 and 3, that could be the game for him, or if I guess if Cato were to go for planets he'd have to go for, planets 1, 3, and 5, or 2 and 4 and 5, so it's looking like this could be a long game if we do not see Nahumekh do something silly and end up being assassinated. Cato arrives at planet number 2, and Nahumekh dissimilarly arrives at planet number 4. So, planet number 1, that is going to be a total of 4 resources won by Nahumekh. I'm sure he's thankful for that. Planet number 2 is going to be a couple of resources won by Captain Cato Sicarius. Planet number 3 is going to be a card and a couple of resources won by Captain Cato Sicarius. Planet number 4 is going to be a couple of cards going to Nahumekh, and planet number 5 is going to be a sole resource won by Captain Cato Sicarius. So, our Nahumekh is going to end up winning planet number 1 entirely uncontested. That is going to be a second of, what your goal is 3. So it's going to be a second red material type icon added to his victory display, even though it's off screen, and we're going to have the opportunity to route a target enemy non-warlord unit. So maybe we'll see the Blood Angels veterans being removed because it's currently got 3 icons, or we could see something removed from our soon-to-be planet number 1. Okay, interestingly enough, he decides to go defensive with that one. So he decides to route his own copy of Viorla Marksman to prevent Cato from killing it and winning 1 resource. Barlas's battle ability is going to result in a random card being discarded, and that random card discard is Exterminatus. For the cost of 3, you pick a non-first planet as a deploy action, and you destroy all non-unique units at that planet. Pretty powerful effect, and considering we were starting to see a large number of Necron units being kind of all dumped at the same planet, Exterminatus could have definitely been a bit of a pain in the ass for our poor Necron. But once again, we've got an HQ phase. That's going to be 2 cards and 4 resources for each of our players in today's game. Our initiative token is now going to be indicating that Captain Cato Sicarius is the first player. And what are we going to see? If Nahumekh is sent during command to a red planet, he's still got that scrap Naba to generate some sort of economy benefit for him. Cato has got a total of, it looks like, 10 resources, and it's no more than 5 for our Necron. So 5 resources in the possession of a Necron is a bit of a dangerous point for him to be at, because during the deploy phase, for the cost of 5, you could do an extermination, and you pick a planet, it's an event, and all non-Necron, non-unique army units get -3 HP for the remainder of the deploy phase. That would totally wipe out all those Space Marines at the first planet. So I suppose we'll have to see what exactly is going to occur. I don't think we've seen Cato play any units or cards as of yet, but I can only imagine that that's going to be changing shortly. Our enslavement dial still looks like it's selecting orcs, so currently Nahumekh has got 2 different units among all the different factions he controls. And that means that Destroyer Cultist can either attack for 3 at planet number 4, or we can use Gauss Flare for it to give an enemy unit -2 HP, and the more rounds of combat you can endure, the more cumulative HP reduction you can amass. But at the moment, it's definitely going to be a game for Nahumekh of try to block off your opponent from winning the game, and try to do your damnedest to not get yourself destroyed. At planet number 4, we've got a copy of 10th Company Scout. So if we were to see a Scout, and if memory serves, I don't think there's an Orc faction Scout unit, we could potentially see a Scout played. Tombblade Squadron could move to 4, and then that would be a dead 10th Company Scout, and it would also be 2 command icons versus 2 command icons, means neither player wins anything at that planet. We've got another Tombblade Squadron played at planet number 4, and that means any non-Necron Scout trait unit could now result in a dead Honored Librarian, which could be absolutely fantastic. So if it was like Kroot Hunter or Eldar Survivalist or Samhan Kinsman, like Scout, 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 you could jump from planet to planet, back to the same planet or to another planet, whatever it is, and it's, -1/-1 kills a 2 HP unit, -1/-1 kills another 2 HP unit. The only problem with that unit is you cannot, move to the same planet, so you couldn't move your Tombblades from planet number 1 to planet number 1 to double kill those Honored Librarians. But planet number 4, we've got another copy of Scrap Naba sitting at that planet. That's going to be another possible 2 resource bonus for Nahumekh, but it's going to be 3 command icons versus 3 command icons, and what else has changed in regard to our game state? At planet number 3, we've got another copy of the Imperial Fist's Devastators. That is going to be a whole hell of a lot of command icons all stacked at one planet. That is not the victory condition for Captain Cato Sicarius, but it's definitely likely to contribute. And if Cato wins at planet number 1, he'll be able to steal another resource from Nahumekh, and if he's going to be able to win at planet number 2, I don't know where Cato's going to go. Okay, so Cato shows up at planet number 4. This is going to be pretty interesting here. So Cato shows up at planet number 4 to try to shut off the resource bonus associated with those scrap nabas, although both of our players were tied even in regard to command. So we're going to see combats at planet number 1 and planet number 4. Planet number 1 is going to be a couple of resources won by Cato. Planet number 2 is going to be a card and 2 resources for Cato, thanks to that rogue trader that's been sitting there unmolested the majority of the game. Ever since turn 2. And then planet number 3 is going to be a couple of cards for Nahumekh. Planet number 4 is going to be a resource for neither player, so 3 command icons and a warlord versus 3 command icons and a warlord. Nobody's going to win any command at that planet, but of course, Nahumekh showed up at that world with a sizable HQ train following him. So Ossus 4 is going to be captured by Cato, but I don't believe there's any resources to be stolen from Anton's resource pool, so, you know, kind of an unfortunate situation there for Pavel. The Imperial Fist's Devastators are going to be taking a swing. Interestingly enough, it is directed toward the Scrap Naba, which is no more than a paltry 1-2. It's very interesting, I think, that the Scrap Naba is going to be destroyed by that attack as opposed to attacking for 4 against Nahumekh, who's a 1-6. And of course, if he's destroyed, that is going to be the game. Interesting choice as well. Nahumekh is going to exhaust. I can only imagine that's going to be to deliver an attack against that 10th Company Scout, but the Fury of Sicarius is going to be discarded. 1-1. What is that number, my dear viewers? That's right, it's 0. So the 10th Company Scout takes no points of damage. We've all, by this point, passed elementary school. The 10th Company Scout takes a swing, and that is going to be another dead Scrap Naba, so it looks like Cato is trying to cut off our Necron economy. Captain Cato is going to take a swing. That is a dead Viorla marksman, so routing it just to save its life was in vain. And I guess for each of those units killed, that's going to be an additional resource generated by Cato, so maybe all of a sudden his madness makes sense. So good on you, Pavel. Of course, that's going to be 3 resources won. Yavharn is looking like it is not triggered, so neither player puts a unit into play for free. At the end of combat, looks like Nahumekh retreats with his Tombblade, with his reanimating warriors, and as well with his warlords. So we go through another HQ phase. We're currently on round number 4. There have been 3, 4, 5, 6. We're currently on round number 5, my dear viewers. Each of our players has generated 4 resources apiece. Look at that giant mountain of resources there. I think I count 16 for Cato, just doing a real cursory glance, but 4 resources, 2 cards for each of our players. The initiative token is now in the possession of Nahumekh, and what exactly is Nahumekh going to have to do here? That's going to be a green icon in Cato's victory display, so he's got 1 green, 1 blue. It's going to be up to Captain Cato Sicarius to try to block his opponent from winning at planet number 1. 4 resources does not happen to equal 5, so Nahumekh, if he happened to have an extermination trump card, he would be unable to use it because he doesn't have enough resources to afford it, and that would have made short work of all those Space Marine units. But things are looking a little bit grim for Nahumekh. Not that they were ever looking exactly good, but they're certainly looking more and more bleak all the time. Cato is making all of these planets increasingly unattractive for Nahumekh to be commit to. Planet number 4 picks up another copy of Tactical Squad Cardenas. We see the one limited card played by Nahumekh being Sawtech Complex, so he's going to be unable to use Drudgery in the future. We've got Tau selected for our enslavement dial. So Drudgery could put into play a Viorla marksman, but, like, man, who cares about putting into play one of those units? I don't happen to recall. I believe that Tombblade squadrons only trigger off of units being deployed as opposed to being put into play, so Drudgery is not going to be able to result in, you know, a Tombblade squadron showing up, guns blazing, and reducing the HP of an enemy unit, so Both of our players are currently deciding, do we want to deploy any additional cards? What exactly do we want to do, if anything, for the remainder of our deploy phase prior to determining a planet to send our warlords to? Let's say Cato is going to be able to win planet number 1 hands down, so it seems like it would be silly for him to show up at that planet with his warlord, so why bother? Like, if Nahumekh were to show up at planet number 1, he'd have to retreat straight away. The Tombblade Squadron, Reanimating Warriors, those would both be destroyed. The Reanimating Warriors, granted, could relocate from planet number 1 to planet number 2, but that would be really not doing anything apart from blocking off a resource, well, a couple of resources and a card for our Space Marine players. So the Tombblade Squadron is going to be moved from planet number 2 to planet number 3. That is going to be a dead copy of 10th Company Scout after a Vior-La Marksman was played. And now, what are we seeing here? The other Tombblade Squadron is also moved to planet number 3, and that's going to be -1 HP till the end of the phase on that copy of the Imperial Fist's Devastators. So our players are deciding where they want to send their warlords. If Cato shows up at planet number 1, he'll be able to block his opponent from stealing command at that planet. He'll be able to guarantee that he'll get that card and 2 resources thanks to the Rogue Trader. If Cato shows up at planet number 2 and Nahumekh does not, he would block off 2 cards for his opponent and he would gain 2 cards. But if he were to retreat, then he'd be giving his opponent a random card discard. Nahumekh shows up at planet number 1, so he's going to try to deny that card and those 2 resources. He arrives with the Reanimating Warriors, which is going to be destroyed, but it'll be relocated to planet number 2 instead of being destroyed, and all of its damage tokens are going to be removed. Looks like Cato shows up at planet number 3, and perhaps I grossly made a mistake in regard to what Cato has in his HQ. Like, note that Captain Cato over there has arrived at that planet with 2 honored librarians and I believe an Iron Guard recruits and another unit. And I totally thought those were all positioned at planet number 1, so I suppose that just goes to show that we should be very careful. But at planet number 1, that's going to be a card and 2 resources won by Nahumekh. Planet number 2 is going to be a couple of cards for Nahumekh. Planet number 3 is going to be a resource for Captain Cato Sicarius. Planet number 1, first combat turn is going to be Nahumekh retreating from that planet. The Imperial Fist's Devastators attacked. They killed that Reanimating Warriors. It's going to be destroyed, and it's going to arrive at planet number 2. Do bear in mind that it should be exhausted at that planet. Not that that makes any difference, but it would if we had battles at both planets taking place. Karrnath triggers forced random card discard. Karrnath triggers Barlas. The forced random discard is going to be another, I believe, scout. The Vashiya Trailblazers, that 2-cost 2-command icon dude, is now gone. Both of those Tombblade Squadrons at Cato's destination are going to be destroyed, and that is going to be another couple of another couple of resource tokens for Captain Cato here. We move into another HQ phase. And this is pretty interesting indeed. Looks like Cato has picked up 2 blue and a red and a green icon. So it's basically going to boil down to whomever wins planet number 1, it does not matter at all. Cato, if he wins the last planet, that is going to be the game. But I suppose the same can be said for either of our players in today's match. So whichever player ends up winning the final planet is going to end up taking home today's game. Enslavement dial appears to indicate Tau. We'll have to see if that changes. But we've gone through another HQ phase. That is going to be 4 resources and 2 cards for each of our dear players. And what exactly are we going to see? Cato's got initiative. If it were me, I would probably just allow Nahumekh to win planet number 1, do his forced random card discard thing, and then I would probably hold on to a lot of those resource tokens unless for some reason I had a lot of 4 or higher HP units like Land Raider or, God forbid, Mordecai Rune Priest or something along those lines. Although Mordecai Rune Priest during the Death World cycle could stand to get quite a bit better once it's got a Valkyrie pattern, jump pack and all that business, but we'll have to see if that unit remains garbage or not. Maybe my 5 or so Worlds 2015 alternate art versions of that card will someday see some use, or probably not, because I'm not a fan of that artwork. But what exactly are we seeing from either of our players? Looks like our Space Marine isn't doing a whole hell of a lot. I'm not sure if he's passed or not, because Pavel does not have his hands above the table. I don't know what he's doing down there, but no idea how many cards are in our Space Marine player's hand. He's certainly got a lot of resources. Looks like that is a whopping 21 resource tokens for Cato. If only there were some sort of like Tzeentch's Firestorm that Space Marines had, but unfortunately that is not the case. Our video makes a small jump as our players take another potty break or something like that. Planet currently number 1. What is our Necron player going to do? He's currently got 8 resource tokens. He's got a copy of Reanimation Protocols in hand. He's got a copy of Snakebite Thug that he can't play because his enslavement dial has not picked that faction. By the way, Snakebite Thug, excellent synergy with Extermination if Nahumekh is running that in his deck because it's got 4 HP. At least if you play a Hail one, it does have, a predisposition toward damaging itself. And it looks like I did happen to spy a certain 5-cost event in our Nahumekh player's hand. So if Cato were to go to planet number 1, what exactly would he have to deal with? Would he be able to potentially win at that planet? He'd have to deal with an attack of 1 going out by the Viorla Marksman, but we've not seen any Indomitables used by Captain Cato Sicarius, so I can only imagine he's maybe got a few of those in his hand by now. We've got the Reanimating Warriors, which is going to be able to attack for no more than 2, which is really nothing special. The Destroyer Cultist is currently a 2-attack unit, and it can do its Gauss Flare thing to do minus 2 HP to a unit, so that could be that Tactical Squad Cardenas prevented from using its area effect ability, or looks like both of our players are going to be showing up at planet number 1, so that could be pretty interesting indeed. Primal Howl is going to be played by Cato, so he gets to draw 3 cards for the cost of 0, because both Warlords were sent to the same planet. And what exactly are we going to see? Okay, looks like Anton, again, I believe this is his first time playing as Necrons. He must have forgotten to set his enslavement dial at the beginning of the turn, but maybe not, because he kept it at Tau. So, planet number 1 is going to be a couple of cards won by Nahumekh, because 2 Warlords means command icons reign supreme. Planet number 2 is going to be a single resource won by Cato, despite all those beautiful units he's got sitting at that same planet. So, battle at planet number 1, here's how things are going to wind down. We've got the Viorla Marksman, which can take a shot of 1 at any of these units. It might be able to kill off that copy of Tactical Squad Cardenas. That's probably the prime target for it. We've also got a Gauss Flare, and is the Gauss Flare going to be sapping the HP of Blood Angels veterans as opposed to the Imperial Fist's Devastators? So the Viorla Marksman is going to take a shot, but is it taking a shot at what? It's going to be 1 outgoing point of damage during the ranged skirmish. That is going to be a dead copy of Blood Angels veterans. These Space Marine units, of course, are not going to be readying until the end of the combat round, and then, of course, once that happens, we'll have another combat action prior to any attacks where the Gauss Flare can trigger again. Looks like that was indeed an alternate art copy of Promotion attached to that Blood Angels veterans. That is now in the discard pile. Cato takes a swing, but at what? Do we have a shield card discarded or not? Looks like that's the Destroyer Cultist, and what are we going to see? Is that going to be a couple of copies of Crushing Blow? Yes, it looks like that is indeed the case. That is going to be a dead Destroyer Cultist, because 2 + 2 is of course going to be 4, and now that Gauss Flare is not going to be able to dash all of Nahumek's plans. So Cato there, every time a unit dies, he gains 1 resource, and that is going to be a removed from play Destroyer Cultist. That Viorla Marksman is exhausted. Now it's going to be up to the Reanimating Warriors to attack. It's going to be up to Nahumekh to attack. I believe we've seen all 3 copies of Drop Pod Assault played by our Space Marine, but we've yet to see any copies of Eager Recruit. So depending on shields and whatnot, our Nahumekh player may or may not be worried about the Space Marine doing Eager Recruits. Like, if Nahumekh has a bunch of shields, he'll be able to prevent himself from being outright killed by Eager Recruits. And we've seen all those Crushing Blows gone, so our Space Marine is running out of tricks. I guess, I wouldn't envision Veteran Barbarous showing up to attack for 2 during ambush, but I guess crazier things have happened. The Reanimating Warriors does manage to destroy that Tactical Squad Cardenas that would have been Area Effect 1, resolving at that planet. Nahumekh uses his combat turn to retreat, as opposed to being ballsy and fighting at that planet, and we see the end of a combat round down, the Rogue Trader runs away, and now it's going to be Cato left at that planet with maybe the Viorla Marksman and the Reanimating Warriors. So it's going to be our Space Marine player's decision to retreat or not first. If the Reanimating Warriors stay, they're not going to be destroyed, so what are we going to see? Yep, so the Viorla Marksman retreats. That is going to be the Imperial Fist's Devastators attacking. They kill it, and instead of it being destroyed, it's simply relocated to that planet, so Cato is denied one resource. Barlas is going to be captured. That is going to be another card added to the victory display of our Space Marine player, the forced random card discard, and holy hell, that is a lot of cards that our Necron is holding on to. That's going to be a discarded copy of Destroyer Cultist. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is our last round. So HQ phase, 4 resources, 2 cards. Initiative is now in the possession of our Necron, so if he sends his Warlord to that planet, he's going to be able to naturally retreat. But we're going to have to see a hell of a lot of cool stuff occur for him to be able to win this one. So it's going to be 3, 6, 9, 12 resources in total for our Necron, and it's going to be, 4, 5, 6 times 4 is going to be 24, 27 total resources for Captain Cato Sicarius. So what exactly are we going to see? I can't quite tell what faction that is on the enslavement dial of our Necron player. That almost looks like Dark Eldar. I suppose I've not really taken the opportunity to look at my enslavement dial myself, and I just do not recognize that symbol. Weird. So I don't know what that is. But in any case, I guess the enslavement dial is going to be flipped upside down or something. But what are our players going to be doing during this last deploy phase? What we've got to see is we've got to see a whole hell of a lot of 4 HP units played, and then we have to see Extermination played by our Necron player. Otherwise, he has no chance whatsoever. But your next deploy phase, your next deploy turn after playing Extermination, you've got to pass. So we've got a copy of Doomsday Arc in the hand of our Necron player. That is a 6-cost, 5/5 with, I think, a couple command icons, and it's got area effect X, where X is equal to the number of non-Necron factions you control, but he's only got 2 at the moment. Looks like that symbol he chose on his enslavement dial was the Eldar faction symbol. That did not look like the little pyramid with, I think, like an eye in the middle or whatever, like hieroglyphic characters on it. But we've got a Warlock Destructor at 2 Warlock Destructors at planet number 1. So for the cost of 4 in total, that's going to be 2 1 command icon 3/4 units that during the next round's deploy phase, which is never going to happen, you've got to pay a resource or discard those units. Cato is playing still more Space Marines at planet number 1. We've also got another Eldar unit that is going to be the 4-cost Wild Rider Squadron. It's rather expensive for not being able to have any kind of useful ability at the moment, but it's got 4 HP. It's a 3/4 1 command icon unit. Normally as a combat action, you can move it to an adjacent planet. We've got one of the Warlord Friend units on our Space Marine side of the table. It is going to be a copy of White Scars Bikers. When a Warlord is present, it's a 4/3 with command icon, but here we go. That is going to be Extermination. First time I've seen it played. Looks like Anton is giving a bit of a belly laugh in celebration. Until the end of the phase, every non-unique, non-Necron unit at that planet gets -3 HP. And unfortunately for Captain Cato Sicarius, he did not have a copy of Veteran Brother Maxos positioned at that same planet. So looks like our Necron has passed. Cato lost something like 10 or 12 units, including 2 or 3 copies of Honored Librarian, the White Scars Bikers, all sorts of stuff. That was just incredible. The Extermination there probably killed like 15 resources or more worth of units. Even those 4-cost Imperial Fist's Devastators were outright destroyed. We've got no more than a Blood Angels Veterans and a Tactical Squad Cardenas at planet number 1 against 3/4 units, and of course Nahumekh. And note that that Saw Tech complex probably resulted in drawing a card or something along those lines. At some point, looks like that Reanimating Warriors was destroyed. I'm not sure where exactly it is or why it was destroyed. I could have sworn it was not destroyed through damage at any point. And there was no Exterminatus or anything like that. So I don't know where that unit has gone off to. Both of our players have sent their warlords to planet number 1. That is going to be 1, 2 command icons for Cato, and that's going to be 1, 2, 3 command icons. Basically, that's one resource won by Nahumekh. Nahumekh took a swing with his Warlock Destructor. That is going to be a dead copy of, I believe it was a Tactical Squad Cardenas. Blood Angels Veterans is going to take a swing, but at what is it going to be swinging, you ask, or at least I ask? Will we see shields? I guess Nahumekh has got 6 HP. I presume all those crushing blows are gone. That is going to be Staff of Command, the signature attachment discarded, so 3 minus 3 is going to be 0. 3 plus 2 would have only been 5 points of damage going to Nahumekh, so without crushing blow, even in the context of the opponent having no shields whatsoever, Nahumekh could not have been destroyed prior to the conclusion of the first round's combat, unless we've got myriad, or, well, multiple eager recruits in the hand of our Space Marine there. So that is going to be a Warlock Destructor taking a swing, probably at that Blood Angels Veterans, but finally Indomitable is going to be used for something. Cato is going to be attacking one of these units. And what exactly are we going to see? We've got a copy at least of 1 reanimation protocol sitting in the hand of Anton Elizarov, and unless you're damaging your non-Necrons, that is going to be just completely ineffectual and doing absolutely nothing for you. So Nahumekh takes 2 points of damage. There we see that reanimation protocols, which seems bizarre to use right now, frankly, because, you know, if Nahumekh is going to retreat at the end of the combat round or something, why not just save it as a 1 shield card? Because you definitely don't want to risk your Warlord being destroyed. But the Wild Rider Squadron takes a 3. That is going to be a dead copy of Blood Angels Veterans. There's only 1 card left in the hand of Captain Cato Sicarius, and it looks like, dear viewers, we may see our meta move in the direction of 4 HP units for this very reason, or at the very least run Veteran Brother Maxos, although it's not like Cato had a lot of cards remaining in his hands. The Imperial Fist Devastators was destroyed. Eager Recruit is dropped into play. It's going to take a swing only for 1 against Nahumekh, because Hate is going to be discarded, and now will we see Nahumekh retreat at the end of combat? Hate is an X-cost event, whereas a deploy action, you pay the cost of a target enemy army unit and it is outright destroyed. The Imperial Fist Devastators are going to be killed because, you know, there's no shielding ability whatsoever, so 3 is going to be reducing its HP to 0. It is dead, and now it's going to be no more than the Eager Recruit and Captain Cato Sicarius to swing ineffectually and, unfortunately, just being able to do absolutely nothing against Nahumekh. So at the very last minute, looks like Anton has totally turned this game around. Cato and the Eager Recruit are going to bring Nahumekh to 1 hit point, but 1 hit point equals you can 100% still win the game. Cato is going to be bloodied by that Warlock Destructor. That's going to be the Rogue Trader attacking. That is going to be the Eager Recruit dead. All of our units are going to be readying at the end of the round, and that is going to be the GG right there. So the Rogue Trader manages to somehow survive, but I'm sure it's going to be shortly after this match enslaved by our Necrons. And a tremendous congratulations to Anton Elizarov for managing to win this game right at the last moment and bring glory to the somewhat community-maligned Nahumekh. So, my dear viewers, this ended up being a bit of a spectacle of a match. It was pretty fascinating to see just how kind of garbagey those Honored Librarians are in a versus Necrons context, and for the love of all that is holy and for the love of the Catan, I guess start considering running 4 HP units and, you know, Veteran Brother Maxos, and looking ahead to just be very worried that your opponent might do that play of Extermination there. I've never really seen a giant blowout Exterminatus or Doom, and this is probably one of the biggest blowouts for Extermination that I have seen. So consumption wasn't too great for the Tyranids, and maybe Extermination is going to be just the maddeningly frustrating card that makes Nahumekh reasonably competitive. So, dear viewers, let me know in the comments what you thought of this match, what you thought of Cato's gameplay, his strategy, his deck building. What could he have done differently so that Pavel Ilichev could have potentially won this game? What did you think about Anton Elizarov's Necrons playstyle, his deck? What do you think it's going to take to see a competitive Nahumekh, whether it's current deck build or just additional cards? Let me know in the comments, because, as always, interacting with you, dear viewers, is the highlight of my maintaining this channel. So, a tremendous thanks one last time to Anton Elizarov, Pavel Ilichev, and the entirety of the Russian meta for giving me the opportunity to publish this commentated Necrons match. So, As always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already, or if you are already subscribed, as ever you're encouraged to share this content. More views means more people are exposed to Conquest, they may give the game a try, enjoy what they experience, join our community, and then that provides all the more reason for Fantasy Flight Games to continue to support and develop this fantastic product. If you ever want to reach out and get in touch with me, leave a comment below, contact me on Twitter or on Facebook, and as ever, I would be absolutely honored, humbled, and deeply, deeply appreciative were you to make a small token contribution to my Patreon. It all goes to improving the quality of my audio and video content, and it all just gets reinvested in this channel. So once again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the first live-action Necrons match. Have a good one, take care, and as always, be sure to check back in again soon for much more Conquest LCG content to come.